Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thursday on TLDChat. Good to see so many people here today. Good to see so many new faces as well.
That's so funny.
Why does everybody diss me for the soundboard? It's like my favorite thing in the morning. I actually had to run all the way upstairs to retrieve it because I forgot I left it up there. Anthony, how's it going? We missed you. We haven't seen you in a long time, man. Oh, yeah, we do. Come on. Hey, everybody. Welcome to TLD Chats. We're here every morning, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, 4 p.m. UK time. And do we have somebody from another part of the country other than another part of the globe outside of the U.S.? Because it's kind of a rule. We have to have global representation before we can get started. Ah, yes, we have Canada here. Thank you so much. So we're good to go. We can take off. This is great. Those of you that are new, maybe you've never heard of us before. Maybe you heard from a little birdie about what TLD Chat is. We hang out and we talk shop. We talk training, learning, and development. You do not have to be academically trained or educated in the magic and voodoo of instructional design. All you have to do is somehow have stumbled into the fact that you now have to create training. You are responsible for training or learning and development of some sort for your team, for your organization, for the product you're creating. Whatever it is, we can help, and that's why we're here. TLDC in general, the global TLDC, is here to do just that, to help everybody network, to get better at what they do, to offer up a platform to share everything that you know. And a daily chat is our way of saying that we like hanging out with you guys. We like to chat. We like to give you a spot to start your day if you're in the U.S. or end your day if you're over in Europe, and either prepare for your day and kind of get fired up on the topics of the day, or if you're over in Europe, maybe to relax and wind down and maybe hear about what you missed. But we've been having some fantastic conversations all week long. Yesterday, things got a little out of hand. I apologize, but I felt necessary to play the role of rock and roll guy for Andrew, and I'm going to get it right this time. Shively. Thank you very much. I've been practicing all day. I got his name wrong all day yesterday, so I feel much better about it. But anyways, good to have all of you here. Good to see you all. And we have a special guest today, special last minute guest decided to pop in today. Miss Mel Milloway. How the heck are you? Except you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, and the layout changed just when I was like taking me off, and I was like, gotta go all the way over to the other side.
Nice timing, Brent. Yeah, way to go. I should have waited.
It's okay. I'm doing really well. I'm excited to be here. It's been a while since I've talked to you, or even like been on the chat, like just listening in and watching. I walk 2 miles to work every day, so usually it's during the time that the chat is on. So I need to see if it's possible to get on mobile or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you can listen to it on mobile, which is great. They do. Crowdcast does have an app, but and the recordings are also available, and we're also pushing this out to a podcast too. So,
cool.
Yeah, but it's not. You wouldn't get the live part. You would get, you'd be able to get get it sort of after the fact in the podcast format. But other than that, yeah, it's a good way to do it. So, so you've been pretty opinionated all week. You've been telling me. So,
yeah.
What's got you going these days?
I don't know what it is with this week in general, but there's a few things that I did want to talk about that I've been really interested in lately. And so one of them is design ops. Another one, of course, everyone knows that I've been interested in is xAPI. And like just talking about like how to build skills that help support those kinds of efforts in your organization. So I think those are two of my top things on my mind this week.
Awesome.
And always building skills is on my mind, obviously, because we're in learning and, you know, that's important.
Exactly. So let's start with this. For those new folks that are here, well, even the old folks that have been around a while, but maybe haven't met you or seen you at an event or speaking or read your blogs or anything like that, give us a little quick introduction.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Okay. So my name's Melissa, and also Mel. I go by Mel. And so I blog in the industry, but I also work at Amazon as a, I guess, learning experience designer, whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing. So basically, right now I am on a team called Engineering Excellence, and I create learning for SDEs, so software development engineers. And I like to just like experiment and try new things in the field, and that's kind of my jam, I guess, is just trying new things and experimenting. Yeah.
Well, you have certainly built a name for yourself doing that, for sure. People love reading about it and hearing about all the cool things that you're working on, and you know, all of the experiments I think everybody is learning from, which is why it's always great to have you here talking about those things, because that's the real bonus power of TLDChat, I think, is this ability for everybody to kind of join along in everybody else's experiences and what they're doing, right? We can't all learn everything. So together we can all at least maybe get a little taste of everything that's going on. So let's start with one of the topics. So let's, you pick of the three that you mentioned, what do you want to start with?
All right. Well, I know that we have to get to xAPI at some point, but I would love to talk a little bit about design ops.
Yeah, let's do that.
So that would be awesome. And I have a lot of resources to share with you guys too. So I don't know if I should like screen share what you want me to do. Like,
let's see. Have you installed the screen share plugin for Crowdcast?
Oh no, I have not.
Oh, that might make you reboot or whatever. So let's just do this. Let's just, if you have links, if you could just drop them into the chat, maybe we can.
Yeah, I'm going to drop this one in real quick. So this is one called, so how many people know what design ops is? Maybe that's a good place to start. But yeah, I can start talking about it so that people get an idea. So it's not like a relatively new concept, but it also is relatively new in the sense that people are just starting to like hear about it and learn about it. So DevOps has been around for a while, but design ops, the one thing that I want to focus on and talk about is basically like design systems ops and how that can help your company, especially if you're building e-learning in-house, but also outside as well, or just like any kind of learning. So what it allows you to do is be like global and scalable, and it's basically thinking in a modular way. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with like the term modular by any chance.
I think everybody's pretty connected to that term. I think somebody give a shout out if you don't, and it's totally okay to not know. You know, if you're new, that's why we're here. We'll spin you up.
But basically, it's thinking about things as components and not as like a full product. So say you have a website and you have a navigation bar. You're thinking of that as one separate thing. So when I design, what I like to do is I like to break everything into components and then pull them into my project because it makes it much more global and scalable. Oh, awesome. You pulled it up. Cool. So definitely watch the video that's in the bottom left-hand corner there. It's really, really great. And that's, I think it's by someone who works at Salesforce as a user experience designer. And it will definitely explain design ops a lot better and the reason for it. And I think it's something that we can really take advantage of in the field of learning.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the idea of modular it fits nicely into the idea of iterative development too, right? Like starting off and you know, keeping your development, you know, when you get it to a certain point, or maybe the best way to put it, maybe people are most comfortable with the term minimum viable product, right?
Yeah.
Cutting that loose and then iterating on it. And if you keep things modular, it gives you the ability to do that without messing up the other parts of the system, right? Isn't that kind of the idea?
Absolutely, and it makes it much more scalable. So say like I have a nav bar and I want to use it across all documents. It's just it's easier to implement across all things versus just like doing things over and over and over again. You have the ability to pull from one place. So if you pull up that link that I just put in chat too, that will give you a really good example of what that looks like. So I know we were talking about Salesforce earlier before we got in this room. And so basically this lightning design system, this is for Salesforce, and you can see how they do like their modular design. So they have style guidelines, they use components, they have design tokens, icons, so they can create a really cohesive, scalable design in this way. And this is how I like to create my learning. And use components. So if you go into icons or components or whatnot, you can see code snippets of the code that they can use, all sorts of things that will make your design much more scalable for your company.
So let's drill down into this a little bit more technically. And I think for some folks, we might geek out a little too much here, but I think that's okay because, you know, this is a little bit high level stuff, but I like to dig down at least for a few minutes on the details. So when you say modular and when you're building this kind of stuff, to me, that means you're using a platform or a technology or code of some sort that is used across all of your courses that you're doing or learning solutions or whatnot. Is that the case? And do you have to standardize on that? Or do these modules, can they jump from one thing to the next and be utilized across the board?
I think it's kind of more of, I like to think of it as like a buffet. So I know we're creating these different kinds of learning experiences and learning products, and they might be on several different things. So I might have, like, for instance, like a navigation bar or something that I use the same one on all of my products, but I might not use necessarily like say like a pop-up or something like that. Like I might not need it on one of my products, but I can use it on a different one, or I can pull things in for when I need them and use them across all products versus thinking in templates. Like I hate the word templates. When I hear templates, I like just want to, I'm like rolling my eyes. I'm like, the first thing that people talk about in the e-learning industry when they want to scale is templates. And that's not the way to go, because obviously we're thinking about creating custom learning experiences based on our needs analysis that we do, and we're creating designs based on that. And more of a modular component-based system versus a template-based system fits much more perfectly and just makes way more sense and is even more scalable. Because if you think about a template, if you want to alter that template, you have to go in there, delete things, change things, do all these things, when you could really realistically build something that is a personal experience to what your needs analysis was with these components. It just makes much more sense.
Right. And then so you're just at a certain point, you're just then going in and, like you said, picking out from the buffet. So you have an experience that you're thinking of and you're like, oh, I'll take one of these, I'll take one of these, and I'll take one of these, and then put them all together and do a little bit more to make them all work together. Right. Then, add some little design sprinkles on top and you've got yourself a nice little learning solutions parfait.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great because you can do it across all things. So it can be for, say you're building like a website or something like that. You can have the code snippets for the styling and the code snippets for what your nav, like your structure, your nav bar, or your menu, or your buttons and things like that. But you can also do it for e-learning. You can build out, instead of building out full templates, build out button kits, build out different things that you can pull into your e-learning. So if you're doing e-learning and you're not at the web development piece yet, or you're not going to be doing that, I mean, it's something that can be done across everything.
So would you have to, though, standardize on a particular platform for this to be part of your scaling up idea or within your organization? Is this something that you would have to implement and it would stay locked into one tool? Like, let's say, for example, your whole entire organization uses Storyline, so you would just build kind of components within Storyline that everybody can share together, or how would that work? So
that lightning design site that I showed you, typically what people are doing in like the UX and UI field are creating this website that has like all of their style guides that you can download, like say swatches for colors, download the fonts, download the, say, Storyline button kit component, or download the code snippets in the CSS, or copy them from there at least. I think I think some people are sharing some stuff in chat, but yeah, there's really that ability to have like a one-stop shop for your whole design system. So basically this lightning design system enables people to put together everything to build a product. Obviously just the front end of it, not necessarily how it works.
Excellent, excellent. And so maybe do you have any examples, not necessarily to show, but to, any success stories that maybe you could share with us on how this worked out well for you?
So this is something that it's kind of new for me. So it's something that I'm currently working on right now. So one of the things that I do a lot of, I use Bootstrap, and so I'll paste a link in there. So one of the things that I have been doing is using Bootstrap and taking their code snippets and components for different things, and then creating a CSS sheet, so CSS, so a cascading style sheet that basically says like, okay, so this is what the framework is for these things, but the CSS is telling me like how I'm going to actually design it, like what it's going to look like. So
yep.
I might be using these components to start with, tweaking them a little bit for my needs, and then creating the styling that goes along with them and storing it and making sure like it's really well documented and it's all very modular so that people can reuse it and repurpose it in all different ways.
Very nice.
It's been working out very well for me.
It is?
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
It's a lot faster.
So are you going to roll this out to all of the other designers and developers within Amazon?
So that is what design ops is supposed to be. It's supposed to be about that, but for me, I'm not connected to the org as a whole. Our learning teams are very dispersed. Mm-hmm. So we don't work together in any kind of fashion, but ideally for design ops, there would be one team that is kind of the design ops team, and they are creating all of these standards and making sure that it's implemented across the whole org. And that would be obviously ideal, but as we know, in a lot of orgs, learning isn't centralized, it's very decentralized, and there's not that kind of connection like they have across product teams necessarily.
Yeah. Hey, do you have Anna asks a great question. Do you get to have a vote in the standards?
Well, I would, yes, for my team, but not across the org, obviously. Yeah.
What if they shot you down, just out of curiosity? What if they said, nah, all this hard work you've put into this is fantastic, but we'd rather not go that way?
I don't know. I feel like it's very democratic here. Like, I feel like that wouldn't just happen. I think it's more of a conversation. Yeah. We're very modern org, I would say. I think most people realize that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I know we have several friends and colleagues working there at Amazon in different locations in one form or another, which is always nice. I haven't talked to many of them in a while. I thought I'd ping Mark and see if he would show up today, but
yeah, I'm wondering how many people are going to DevLearn, by the way, if you want to like answer in chat. So apparently we have over 60 people from Amazon going to DevLearn. So be prepared.
Oh
be prepared to be taken over.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to learn about Amazon, there you go.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of people there. It's gonna be pretty interesting. So that's another thing also that where like things like this come in and these kind of chats come in. I also lead a learning design meetup with another woman here at Amazon. So we've been working together for a few months, leading Adobe Connect sessions for our entire org in learning, and that's been something where I might present something like this to them as like an idea, and so maybe it might catch on, but we'll see.
Fantastic. Yeah, that'll be good to it'll be good to hear. I think it just seems like I've always we've seen how our industry changes and tends to follow the mainstream of tech, right? And so technology has been kind of going in this direction for a long time, the development community, the coding community, and whatnot. And so it just kind of seems natural that we would be at the point now where we maybe start to think about it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I'm really I'm really connected to the community of web development. And it's one of those things where there's so many best practices, and I feel like we're always really far behind, that I'm trying to keep up with what's going on there and see how it can positively affect our field and bring those best practices into our field. Because the thing that people often forget is that when you're designing e-learning or digital learning, whatever you want to call it, it's through technology. And like that, and sometimes I come into to different discussions with people, and they come from a field of like instructor-led training and that whole background, and I'm so connected to the community, the web development and design community, that it's for me, it's just natural to look to them, because they're the ones that, you know, we're designing things for, we're making apps, we're doing virtual reality, we're doing all these things that they're doing too. Like, we should be connected to each other. We shouldn't be separated. Doesn't make any sense.
Right. Yeah. I think many of us have discovered that throughout our careers, right? We tend to learn the most from those sort of industries that are on the fringe of what we do, right? Or, you know, widely connected. You know, our industry, or Anthony, our lack of an industry is sort of an amalgamation of multiple industries, I think, or at least we pull from all of them, right? Right?
Exactly.
We've got the tech side of the house, so we should look to the tech folks. You know, and then if you could break that down into all the subcategories of tech, you know, the VR people. There's people out there doing better, you know, crazy stuff than we might be doing. I've always referred to us as a lagging indicator, right? So we're always sort of on the tail end of the usage of technology. But I'd also follow that up with, I think that's where we should be, because there's no reason for us to be out there trying to be innovative in those different areas, because that's not our role. Our role is to wait and see what sticks, right? And what works in the general sense of things, and then apply that stuff to learning. So innovation on our side is a little different than innovation in a lot of the other areas, because our innovations are in how do we apply the existing popular technologies that your users are using, and how do we add that element of instruction and utilize those technologies to reach the people that we need and to improve their performance and things like that, right?
Exactly, because it's about, you know, the 5 moments of need. When it comes down to it, it's about meeting people where they are on the platforms that they're using, in the technology that they're using, the systems they're using, or in the workplace. Like, you know, just being able to deliver that training right when they need it, or the performance support, what have you, right when they need it in that moment. And maybe it's before that moment, who knows, just whenever they need it, we have to get it to them. And yeah, it's through the technology that's pre-existing, but it's using it in a way that is, you know, has some knowledge behind it and purpose, and not just like plopping an interactive PDF on something, and just thinking through how we're going to use it, you know?
Right. Well, yeah, we can think of technology is cooler than sliced bread, and we know it's we know it's the most powerful learning tool we've ever had. But if you stick it down in front of somebody and they don't know how to use it, you know, and they don't, like, if you have to spend a day just teaching them how to navigate or how to engage with the product, then, you know, you're actually causing more friction than good. So, you know,
Exactly.
You know, I think the you know, sometimes the best solution is a less technical experience if the users are only familiar with the less technical solution, right?
Yeah, exactly. True. And maybe that's the segue to xAPI.
I was just saying, so let's move on to that next topic.
I know Anthony's going to have a lot to say.
Introduction, because I know we're going to go off on a huge rant, but we'll do about 5 minutes of an intro to xAPI for folks who maybe don't know, and then I'll take a little break and I'll let you catch up on the chat, and then we'll jump back into it and do a deep dive. So xAPI.
Yes. So am I going to do this justice? Because, like, honestly, I'm new to this area of the field, I would say. But I've been testing stuff out. So with xAPI, basically, I would say like it's a standard, it's a specification. So it's there's tons of different ways to collect data, and this is just one of them, but it's specific, and it's a specification. So what makes that great about it and why it's great for us to use it in the learning industry means, yes, again, it's scalable. If I go from one team to a different team in a company, or go from one company to another company, we all know what it is. We're not remaking the wheel. We're not doing this thing over and over again. We all know what it is. And also it means basically the data that we collect from xAPI, because it allows us to collect data on tons of different learning experiences and different experiences in general, not just learning experiences. It means that we can move the data from different databases to other databases because they match the same specifications. So they're written the same way and all these types of things. So there's these great reasons for using it in our industry and not doing something else. And that's the kind of how I want to open this up. But yeah, when we come down to it, it's about collecting meaningful data and trying to collect meaningful data, and on learning experiences and more other types of experiences. Yes.
Yeah, it's a great, it also fits very nicely into that idea of being modular, right? Because the idea of xAPI is having a learning record store also. So there's the xAPI piece of it, but then there is the technology piece, the database, the learning record store that holds all of that data. And so really anything, if you have systems and learning solutions that have xAPI code in them, and you've got a learning record store, you can really start to collect data and move that data and transfer it around, like you said, very easily from one place to another. And you have that interoperability, I believe is the word that we use a lot in this space.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm definitely new to the area, but it's something that I wanted to test out and try and see technically how to do it. So I'm more versed on the technical side than like necessarily the business side and, you know, the proper way of introducing it and saying things. But basically, I just started experimenting with it, and I had so many great findings, not just around what people are learning, but also around how people are going through different things, like user experience. If my products that I'm creating are working well. So for instance, I had created like a microsite that has like these videos in it that go over a process. And one of the things that I had talked about this in a blog post before, but I put a function on it. And so functions can report to the LRS. So it's basically like this string that's like being sent into the LRS to give us that data. So my function was, when you click on this play button on a video, it would send a statement. So I created one that does that. And I found out that my videos weren't buffering for people because of that. People kept clicking the button, they kept clicking, and every time they would click it, it would send a statement, it would send a statement, it would send a statement. And I was like, why am I getting so many statements about the same person clicking play? And I was like, holy crap. I was like, I have to do something about this. So that led me to go back and say, you know, I could have deployed this project. I could have launched this project to everyone and no one would have been able to watch the videos. And I would have been like, what's going on? Like, I have no idea what's happening. So xAPI allowed me to go back and to fix that so that everyone could smoothly and watch the videos. And that's just one of those like surprise use cases. It wasn't something I was thinking I was going to get out of it, but that's what xAPI leads you to do. It get insights on things that you never even thought you would get. Sorry, that's like a long rant.
No, that's great. That's great and that's the reason why I wanted you to explain it from your experience, right? And from how you've deployed it and where you see the value. It'd be really easy for me to invite Anthony in here and say, Anthony, give us the rundown, because he's our xAPI guy. But we always get to hear Anthony talk about xAPI. So I love to get that fresh perspective and to hear you know, how people are actually using it and that are new to it, right? It's fantastic. And so hold that thought for a second, engage with these wonderful folks in the chat, and I am going to just take a quick break here, if you don't mind, if everybody will indulge me. Well, I say thank you to everybody for being a part of the TLDC community. Thank you so much for hanging out today. We have a fantastic crowd today. Man, Melissa, you just like, you draw the peeps in from all over the place, and this is great. It's good to see so many new names and so many new faces. Just wanted to give a quick shout out. All the hard work Luis does, helping me put this together, and he manages the whole back end, and you know, he makes the magic happen. So thanks as always, Luis. This is always a good time. We have Kara that jumps in and helps us out a lot. Also, Craig helps us out a ton as well, and everybody else who just jumps in and lets us know that they enjoy what we're doing, and they share this out on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, and letting their colleagues know everything that we're doing here, and the value that they get from it. That is that's really the best value that we could ask for in return is sharing it with your colleagues, and that tells us that you really do value what we do, and we really appreciate that. If you want to step it up one level, Luis and I are going to be cranking up things here a little bit, and we've put together a membership package as well. So early on, we were asking folks, you know, just to donate, just to throw a couple bucks in a tip jar, and you know, help us, you know, pay for the infrastructure that supports the community of TLDC. And everybody was so kind and so generous, and we really appreciate that. You've helped us keep this thing running for several months now, and so we are eternally grateful. But what we decided to do, just to make it easier on everybody, is just to come up with a very simple, easy membership platform package. And you can hit this up later, and I don't want to go into all the details right now today, but basically, you know, 15 bucks a month ends up coming out, since we do this daily, right? This isn't just some webinar. This is you getting to hang out with your peers, getting to network on a daily basis. If you only have 15 minutes and can jump in and then need to jump out, that's fine too, because we're always going to be here. But it ends up being less than $1 a day, like 75 cents to come hang out with some folks. So go get yourself a cup of coffee and, you know, spend 75 cents extra and hang out with us by being a member and joining. And of course, you can pay for the whole year. And if you're planning on coming to TLDC 18, which is January 29th and 30th in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, we'll get you like a $50 discount on that if you do the whole package. So the event and the $150 a year package, to do both is cheaper than to just go to the conference. So than to just pay the fare for the shoe. So whichever one floats your boat, we are grateful for all of your help and support, and making the community as effective as it is and has been. I hear from a lot of you in the back channels and through email, a lot of the benefits that you get from it. And I really do hope you guys are sharing those benefits that you receive with your colleagues and your peers, and with the network here. You know, I know a lot of you are starting, maybe starting new jobs or new roles, and you've got questions about certain things, and this is a great place for us to hash those things out, right? It's like having your own little consulting community. Just pop in and, you know, ask the chat and get some feedback. Maybe get somebody that's willing to connect with you offline. There's a lot of value to be had here in just getting to know these great people that show up and hang out with us. So so it's a good time, and I just wanted to say thanks to everybody for doing so. We love it. Something I've been forgetting to do all week, and that is to give a big shout out to my friend Kevin Thorne, who's been doing a live Articulate Storyline stream right after this show. So if you go to his Facebook page, or if you go to I believe it's Nuggethead Studios with a Z.com, and he is walking you through his design process. And folks, if you're new to the e-learning industry, or if you're new to Articulate Storyline, or if you're new to just design in general, this is gold. This is a guy who's been doing this for a long time, who is not only a very skilled Articulate Storyline user, but he is an incredible artist and an amazing designer, in general, and his processes are what make him so successful, and how he goes from designing on paper and sketching and then moving over to other forms of media before he ever goes near storyline or any of the tools that he might be using for a project. And it's really, really, really fun to watch him do this live. So 2 days left, today and tomorrow. If you want to jump in and catch that live stream, I would highly encourage it. Lots and lots and lots of value to be had there. And like I said, he's a great guy. He's very entertaining. And fun to watch. And you can also watch the replays too, if you missed, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So anyways, just had to give a quick shout out to him as we go forward. So, all right, so here we go. Now let's go deep into xAPI. Where do we even start?
All right, I really liked, oh gosh, now I got to scroll up to everyone's comments. There was a comment and I was just like pointing it out. I know. Oh yeah. So Sam said things like Mel is talking about are often painful learnings that folks like to sweep under the rug. xAPI is helping us to discover just how worthless a completion really is. That's the truest comment that I've ever heard in my life. And honestly, I didn't realize it until I started using it, how valuable it is. Like, you just won't, like, what I urge learning leaders to do is, it's not going to hurt to just try things. I feel like in the industry, people are just so afraid something is going to break or someone's going to get upset or something's going to happen. Like, we just need to be experimenters. We need to try things. We need to see if something's going to work before we just say, no, I don't want that. Like, it has to be something that we go out and do. And that's something that's so important. And when I'm working with a team or looking for an opportunity in the field, I go towards the people that I know are going to be supportive of those things. Yeah. That's what's important for us to keep moving the field forward, is doing those things. And with xAPI, I mean, when we talk about completions and we talk about things, we're talking about things that people are taking in the learning management system that they're assigned that they often don't want to take, but we can track informal learning experiences with xAPI. So that's where the gold is. The gold is in that. Like, we can grab these business insights that are so different, that can potentially, we can wind up saving the company hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is a plus on top of like creating great learning experiences.
Yep. Yeah, it's so helpful in so many different ways. And I think it's going to take some time, right? Like, we've known all the guys and gals that have been working on it for years and years now. Anthony being one of them, being very well connected in that community, but it's a slow process to get these things off the ground and to get them from idea to execution to industry-wide adoption and then business-wide adoption, right? That's the hardest part. As soon as our industry comes around and says, yes, we love this and this is the direction we want to go, then we as an industry have to convince our business leaders that this is worth doing, this is valuable, can we put some of this xAPI code into these other systems, right? So we can track how people are learning in other systems and get that data. And that's a tough sell.
Yeah, that's definitely a tough sell. And I would say one of the coolest things that I could do, that I would love to be able to do at some point, is to be able to track how people are using a system, then, see if the learning that they did before that has impacted that in any kind of way. If we're going to create or retrain people or do something on a process that affects that system, go to do that. And then afterwards, go back and see the data and how it's changed and how people are using the system after that. And that's where like the real gold in that is. But also in the beginning, it's about finding those skills gaps. Are people not knowing how to do this? And we can really identify, like, are they taking the longest path possible? Are they not selecting the right things? Are they not doing the right things? So for systems training, it's like amazing. It would be great. But yeah, it's all about how do we get people started on it? And it starts with being fearless, and it starts with trying something out, getting a 90-day trial of an LRS, like installing an open source LRS, just experimenting and trying things and showing the value in that and presenting that to the business, and then blowing everyone out of the water, and everyone will soon be like, you know, these people, they have the best data to support what they're doing, we have nothing, and they're getting all the funding and they're getting all this because they have this data.
Yeah, it is fantastic. Craig dropped a good question from the chat into the Q&A box, and so I'm going to hit the start answering that one. And he says, or somebody mentioned that Megan Torrance has talked about A/B testing for learning. How do we really compare two methods to see what actually works? Can we do that? And is that even valuable?
Sorry, what was the question again? I was reading Joe's comment too.
Get out of the chat for a second, young lady. It's so A/B testing, right? I mean, that's when we're talking about learning from you know, these other communities, especially other tech communities, right? A/B testing is very, very popular, right? And very useful, and it's used with great success to kind of fine tune messaging and marketing and whatnot to see what works and what doesn't. Have you ever, you know, done any sort of A/B testing in learning?
Is this in relation to xAPI or?
I think the question might have come up a little ways back before we started talking xAPI, but I think xAPI could be a part of it.
I mean, I think it's something good to do for like user experiences and things like that. So, for instance, we had two different kinds of navigation in one of our modules that we were using, and basically we were testing to see like how do people interact with it and how do people use it differently. So things like that, I've done some sort of like this versus this, like what's better type of testing, if that's what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I'm gonna, if you don't mind, Melissa, I'm gonna invite Joe in real quick. He's always a wealth of information and
absolutely
a fantastic friend of TLDC, and he's got some ideas on the whole A/B testing thing. So it'd be fun to have him in here, and he may not even be ready, so he may even totally reject my video invite, but I hope he can jump in, because it would be great to hear his take on that, because it is a great question.
Yeah, and he also had a good question about LRSs too.
Right, so I guess we should talk about that. I mean, we've got about 15 minutes left, and I touched on LRSs, but you know, maybe folks need to kind of let's dial it back a little bit and maybe explain what an LRS is.
So a learning record store is basically, it's a place where all of your data is stored. So there's a database beneath it, and then there's a front end basically. In your front end, that's where you're going to be, or your like basically UI is where you're going to be pulling your reports and everything like that. And Joe had made a comment about it being hard to, organizations are not adopting xAPI kind of sort of comment because orgs want it easy to get their data, and they don't want to program extraction and reporting. So a lot of LRSs that are out there have data visualization, but you can also download to a CSV, and so you can create pivot tables and whatnot that you want, and you can do it in kind of any sort of way that you want, and you can customize the data that you're pulling out in the LRS, which is a great thing. Is there an LRS that you recommend? Kara asked. I think every LRS is different, so it's really about what your organization needs. Some of them are going to be more where they build you like a customized dashboard to like what your needs are, and others, like I really like Learning Locker, and I like Yet, because they allow you to create multiple LRS instances. So that means I can create one LRS like where I can pull all my data to CSV for each project or each curriculum, and then it makes it easier to get data per project or per curriculum versus like pulling all the data on everything all at once. So for me personally, on my personal projects, like I really like that because I like to be able to see everything separately from each other.
That's fantastic. I liked Sam made a great comment. Sam is just filled with nuggets of knowledge. He's a fantastic smither of words, if you will. His comment is great. Anybody know of an LMS that does A/B testing? Anybody know of marketing automation platform that doesn't allow for A/B testing? And I believe the questions are rhetorical, so we no need to answer. But for those of you who maybe don't get what Sam's referring to, we'll have other chats later on marketing and why, and the things that marketing does and marketing campaigns and how they relate to learning and development and what we do. And it looks like Joe's experiencing some connectivity issues because it just says accepted and connecting and it's just floating. So Joe, I'm going to re-invite you one last time, and if it doesn't work this second time, then we're going to have to move along. But I sure would love to have you in here.
Something's happening.
Here we go. Yeah, A/B testing. Interesting. It's an interesting concept. Yes.
Yeah, that's not anything I've ever talked about with anyone before. I don't know.
We've got a unique crowd here. Come on.
Obviously, it's something that I need to look into, I guess.
Yeah, well, in essence, I guess, while we're waiting for Joe to jump in essence, I guess we could just say for the other folks who maybe haven't heard of the concept before, is you're basically running two, maybe in our lingo, it would be you run two courses on the exact same topic, but you run one a little bit differently than the other, and then you collect all of the data on both and see which one performed the best. And then the one that didn't perform so well, you take out and you just run with the one that did perform well.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So,
I would say I haven't done it to that extent. I would say it's been more so on trying out different designs, but not necessarily like going with one versus the other, just going with what's the best out of both. Like, I feel like that
really the same way, like you could launch two courses that are exactly the same, but one has a different interface than the other, and you can A/B test the interface that way.
Yeah, true. Like it's about also, I guess it could come down to components like that too. Like, yeah. Oh, this works better on this and this works better on this, like best of both worlds. And then see if when you put them together, if that's the final outcome's better than both of those.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, it's just, to me, I've always thought of it as it's the, it's the coding geeky way of the academics. The academic version would just be doing research, right? You've got a test group, and then, one group gets the placebo, one group gets the actual drug, one group gets something else, and then you watch and see what happens, and you make a comparison, It's not only A/B testing is not quite so structured, and the idea is you go fast, right? And it allows you to test it. So for like digital marketing folks, there's always a lot of A/B testing that's done with even titles, like titling a blog post. Some people that really get into that kind of stuff, they'll post two different versions of the exact same blog, each one with a different title, and they'll gather all the data back to see which one had the most click-throughs, right? Which title performed the best in the ads that they ran, right? The banner ads or whatever, and then that's the one that stays up, and then they learn from that, and and that adds value to the next one. So
yeah, I think that also takes, if we're doing it in learning and we're doing in organizations, it also requires people to want to and accept experimentation and being able to experiment and try different methods of things. So I think it's one of those things, like also in the field of learning, that we'd have to convince people of the benefit time that it takes.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Right. I mean, and if you're set up for it, you could just make the A/B testing part of your strategy, right? Or your plan. And then most people will just be like, oh, okay, this is just what the learning department does,
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I think that's a great idea.
Because that's what we used to do, right? Back in the day when it took 6 months to create one course, testing was part of it, right? You would pull in a bunch of people and you would say, hey, we're going to run this course, but it's just like the beta version, right? Back then we didn't call it beta, but we called it, we need a test audience is what we would call it, right? And so we would invite a bunch of people and we would bribe them with free food or free lunch or cake, get them all into the training center, into the room. And then at the end, we would give them a really comprehensive questionnaire. And throughout the course that we were running, they would give us feedback, right? Throughout the whole thing. And then we would do our final revisions on the course, and then the course would go live and we would roll it out. So, A/B testing, I think, is just a little bit more efficient way of doing that in today's tech world.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I feel like also it can come back to that iterative thing. Like you can be constantly gathering data around your products and what you're creating and then make tweaks to it along the way.
Yep. And it's all part of the buzzword bingo, right, Mike? It's the next thing is we will be doing agile learning, and actually agile learning has come up in many conference sessions in the industry lately. So for those of you that don't know Mike has a fantastic podcast, and he is not an L&D guy. So I toss these things out there to him because he comes from a different market altogether, but we love having him here. His perspective is fantastic. So,
well, I believe in agile, and I believe in, living, breathing products that we create, and not something that it's a course and you just put it out there and you forget about it. Like I absolutely do not believe in doing that. I think if it's a compliance course, fine, whatever. But if you're teaching someone something that they actually need, you can't do it that way. It's just not. It doesn't make sense. It has to be something that we revisit.
Yep. Well, I will give my mantra one last time as I do. I try to squeeze this in every day, but great segue. Training is an event. Learning is a process, a long-term process. Technology supports them both, and performance is our ultimate objective. That's that. But yeah, we need to support the learning process more often. And the learning process means iterative development and changing things over time, and continuing to offer learning experience, learning, moments in small bites, big bites, little bites, face-to-face classroom events, text-based documents, all of the things that naturally make up the ecosystem of digital content for any topic, right? That's our world. We may not be expected to make all of those things, but we know that people use those elements to learn and to get better at their jobs and to do different things. So for us to be able to understand that and to have access to those things and to help aggregate them and curate that content for them, I think is extremely valuable.
I agree.
So I'll get off my soapbox now, Nog. You guys crack me up, man. I love you. We got about 5 minutes left, so maybe this is a great spot for us to start wrapping it up. Melissa, what projects are you working on right now? Like, what could we follow Melissa Milloway on and learn something every day from?
So things that I'm working on right now, I'm working on obviously xAPI and doing more things with xAPI. And Anthony Altieri has some great, hopefully I said your last name right, Anthony, some great resources on the technical side of that too, which we're both working on. We need more people to work on that and get that out there. So just go experiment, try new things. And then also I'm doing a lot around the design ops stuff and UI design. And then I would also say I'm trying to put more out there about leading digital learning teams, because digital learning is so much different than classroom-based learning, and building your skills around new things like UI design tools and code and different things that are going to make your team even better in the future, because I think that's where we're going in the future. So I'll be talking a lot more about that stuff.
Fantastic, fantastic. And so where can people find you?
So you can find me on Twitter, Mel Milloway. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Melissa Milloway, and you can also check out my blog, which I update semi-regularly. I go through e-learning industry, LinkedIn, blogging, and my own blog, Mel's Learning Lab. So you can check out any of those and just look me up, and there's a bunch of articles dispersed throughout the internet.
yeah. Mel's Learning Lab is a great place to go too. Yeah, lots of stuff there. And I think somebody has dropped a lot of those links into the chat. And then
thank you.
And I think we're collecting those, and we will put those on the web page that is connected to this this show today. So we'll have that up on the blog as soon as we can, or on the website for the show, and get that taken care of. But any parting words for our chat folks before we go? Anything nuggets of wisdom, a final word? I'm watching everybody comment on Anthony's last name.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, that's my biggest faux pas. I'm always spelling or stating people's last names wrong. But yeah, basically, I mean, my final last words are, just get out there, try new things, experiment. Don't be afraid. Don't be fearful. And I'll see everyone at DevLearn who's going to be at DevLearn. So I'm looking forward to that.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I'm going to do some closing parting words myself here. So I'm going to close your video window, but you'll still be part of the chat, and we will still be here. You can jump into the chat and say hi to everybody. But thanks, Mel, for jumping in today. It's great talking to you.
Thank you, guys. I was excited. This is awesome. Thank you, Brent, for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to definitely do it again, because I want to keep track of what you're doing over there and see how all of these things work out that you're working on. It's when would be a good time? Let me just catch up on that. Like, do you have a project that you're going to be finishing up soon that might be kind of cool to talk about, but you can't talk about right now?
I really don't, but I hopefully maybe in a month or so there will be some new things happening, and I'll be able to share that with everyone. And I'm hoping to work on more prototypes for things. So
all right, cool.
It'll be nice.
I'll get you on the calendar and for about a month or so, and we'll double back and check with you, see how that works. All right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mel. Good to chat with you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, everybody. Melissa Milloway. And that wraps up another wonderful TLD chat. And thanks everybody so much for hanging out today. I hope you all enjoyed the chat today. And we'll reach out to Melissa and find out more. She is definitely leading the way, as far as I'm concerned, in the work that we do in the enterprise and in corporate training and learning and development. And like she said, I will echo her remarks. We have a need for all of us in the industry to be a little bit more fearless, and to push back and to try new things, and to get engaged with things like design ops and xAPI, and understanding how those elements are going to impact the work that you do. So anybody else out there that's doing some cool stuff like that, let me know, and let's get you on the show as a guest. I look forward to seeing all of you, and I hope everybody has a great day today. Be sure to join us tomorrow, because you know what? Tomorrow is Friday, and that means it's Video Friday. I will also give one quick shout out too as we close out. If you are in the San Francisco Bay Area, there is a great event happening there called the Future Learning 2020 Summit. That is going to be fantastic. So let me know if you're interested in that. August 23rd and 24th. Good stuff. Lots of great people there. And don't forget to become a member of TLDC. The membership is less than $1 a day, 75 cents for the 5 days. And we're here every day for you to help you get better at the work you do in training, learning, and development. So join us tomorrow for Video Friday with the wonderful and amazing Sam Rogers, the Snap Synapse, and who's been hanging out with us here today. We're offering lots of excellent nuggets. So if you've never hung out with Sam or seen any of his sessions at events or been a part of Video Friday, it's always a good time. So join us tomorrow, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, 4 p.m. UK time. And for myself and Luis at TLDC, thanks everybody. That's another day in the can, another TLD chat in the can, as they say. We'll talk to you all later. Everybody have a great day. Bye.